I am live and that there are a few people here already. It's been a very, very heavy day in court. It's day 5 of the Richard Allen trial in Delphi, Indiana, and I am sitting in the courtroom. Today we heard from a witness, and I'll talk more in detail again. For those that want every detail that happened in court today, head over to my live after court where I'll go through all of my notes that I am keeping. Right now, lunch lives are just sort of like a brief synopsis of what's going on in there to tell you guys the latest, take you with me. And yeah, autopsy photos. So the first witness on the stand before the autopsy photos was Sarah. We heard about Sarah yesterday and how she drove past the Monon High Bridge Trail around 4 p.m. or just before 4 p.m. and she claims that she saw a man that had mud all over him and was bloody on that February 13th, 2017 day. Muddy and bloody man walking along the street at that time. Again, we'll get more into her testimony later tonight, but let's just jump to, because I've got to process with all you guys, the autopsy photos that we saw. And yes, they were detailed. There was no hiding anything on these autopsy photos, if that makes sense. And it was heartbreaking. Of course, my initial reaction, I have to honestly tell you this. So this is Lauren speculation, what I'm feeling right now. This is what you get at a lunch live, and I absolutely do believe that Libby was targeted. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that bridge guy or the person that did this knew Libby necessarily or knew she was going to be on the bridge. That's not what I'm saying. Whether that's, I mean, maybe bridge guy saw Libby another time, maybe she was in the wrong place at the wrong time with Abby. I'm not speculating on any relationship. What I mean is, once he had Abby and Libby with them, or whoever they are, once this person had Abby and Libby with them, he certainly targeted Libby. I'll just say that. Abby had, as you remember, Abby was clothed and had one wound to her neck. That was it. And not that was, I mean, it's horrible, but like there was one wound, and I'm actually sitting next to a friend who happens to be a sketch artist, by the way, and she's going to help try to, before tonight's live, sort of explain these wounds that we saw. And then, but Libby had 4 to 5 wounds on her neck, 4 to 5 that were very deep. And there were second passes. So the person that did the autopsy is Dr. Kaur, and KOHR, and he was on the stand for a long time and explained and showed the wounds on the big screen and pointed out with a pointer how he said, do you see how there are tags on the skin, and how they're like, these are not, this isn't just one wound, this is 2 wounds in one, as in there was a second pass with the instrument that caused the wound. He pointed out what was like a serrated pattern in one of Libby's wounds. Of course, then he didn't say that necessarily meant there was a serrated knife, and actually at the end he said that he believed all of the wounds on both girls could have been made with one instrument. And again, we'll get back to that later and go over in detail what that necessarily means and how he explained that and the questioning that happened to get to that. But he pointed out some serrated patterns on Libby's neck. Abby's wound was one, just one pass, and it was long, and it was about 2 inches. Was 2? Oh yeah, and then I have a friend here with me, so I'm looking. Yes. Yeah, and that's important. So we went over the first off, the sex assault kits as well. We'll talk about that. So putting a pin in that. He referred to a possibility that Abby might have been, he referred to it as like being restrained, and he referred to 2 faint lines. So first he explained it, 2 faint lines on her face that could have meant that she was restrained. And he pointed them out, and then we saw the picture of it, and he actually pointed out the faint lines, and there was actually here and here, and then he said it could be either duct tape or a cloth. He saw no tape residue, which would imply what?
A perimortem, right around the time.
Yeah, right around the time of death. Thank you. Perimortem, right around the time of death. And it implied, though, that there was no covering of the mouth, in other words, as well. Like the faint lines, like kind of came below the mouth. So he didn't think it was necessarily to cover her mouth. So, but he suggested it was a cloth restraining her or a tape, and then said, but there is no tape residue. So he can't be sure what it was. But he referred to the possibility of restraint, because you go over, because any of them have been restrained. The blood on Libby's hands that I had mentioned before, he referred to those and did suggest that what she likely probably did, and what many people often do, not everyone, it's not universal, but many people often do, is when there is a wound, you try to put your, you try to put pressure on the wound to stop the bleeding. And he suspected that Libby did that to her neck, and that's why she had blood on both hands. We'll share more tonight. I'll share more tonight, and perhaps even have some sketches to show. And I did try to draw some diagrams of the photos we saw too. Libby's family is in there in the courtroom. They did watch, I noticed, the photos being shown. It's been 7 years. I suspect they've seen them before. The Richard Allen's family is in the courtroom, his wife, his sister and mother, as well as a friend that sits next to them. They were watching the pictures being shown. At one point, Kathy Allen looked rather sad looking at the photos. I noted, that's what I thought or felt. And Richard Allen is in there looking at the photos and taking notes as well.
Sister had her arm around Kathy here and there.
Okay, and so another person in court here with me, my friend, said that that's right, I did see that. Yeah, so Richard Allen's sister had her arm around Kathy at some point.
Here and there.
Yeah, here and there.
During
So they're clearly giving each other some comfort, and they have what seems to be a close relationship, and they sit next to each other, and they're right in front of us in the defense. I think, and then the assault kits. So he explained, Dr. Kaur explained, and he explained everything he did when it comes to those kits. And he explained that what they do is they look for trauma or injury that would show sexual trauma or injury. And he said that there was none on either girls, but that does not, he emphasized this, that does not mean that there wasn't SA. It just simply means that there were no injuries or trauma to show no visible trauma to that area. But that, again, does not mean that there wasn't SA. And he made that clear. And I say that because clearly Libby was found nude. And Abby was found in clothes that she wasn't wearing when they were asked to go down the hill.
But she obviously was nude and on the ground at one point.
Right.
Based on her back. The dirt.
Oh. See, and this lunch live is so fresh. I haven't even exchanged notes, and I try to exchange notes with the people sitting next to me before I go live at night. And so we're literally exchanging notes in real time right now. And so we did see a picture of Abby's backside during the autopsy, and that was said, by the way, Dr. Kaur's voice is very, very quiet to the point where there was a break and there were complaints that nobody could hear. We were all straining our ears. He has a bit of a whistle as he speaks, sort of like Tigger and Winnie the Pooh, the whistle, but then it's a very quiet voice. And so it was very difficult. So there's going to be a lot of exchanging of notes, I think, with several people. I believe I heard that family was even complaining, and there was just simply nothing they could do. And the jury said they could hear just fine. And that's, of course, what matters. So, so they did show a photo of the back of Abby during the autopsy. And so what you're saying is what you heard.
Well, I could see there was...
That she was sitting nude on the ground at one point.
Yeah, she had some dirt on her skin,
she had some...
on her back and her back of her thighs.
Okay, she had dirt on the back of her thighs and back and her backside. So at one point she was laying most likely nude on the ground. Okay, thank you for explaining that. We'll do some more, again, note exchanging before tonight. And we'll go get back in there and get in line to go back into court to share more. I agree, Laurie in Texas. Someone is bringing up, Dara, you just brought up a box cutter, a tool from a CVS photo lab. I will say that the term box cutter did come up today. It was by Dr. Kaur, where at the very end, he pointed out, this is during Libby's autopsy results, they were showing how some of her wounds on her neck were so large that he believed that it was created by another part of the sharp instrument or weapon that was used on Libby. And he then said he speculated, like, since giving his deposition in February under oath, that he's been in his garage working, and he has 2 box cutters, and Dr. Kaur speculated that he looked at his box cutter and the thumb grip on his box cutter in his garage, and he speculated that perhaps this wound was caused by the hand grip on the box cutter. Of course, the defense jumped on that and pointed out that Dr. Kaur never mentioned a box cutter in his results or in his report or in his deposition in February, and we'll get into that later. But the a box cutter did come up today pre-lunch. So Dr. Kaur is still on the stand. Yeah, and to be continued, but a lot happening today. And Sarah was a really interesting witness, very interesting. Again, we'll get into that later tonight. So hit subscribe, hit notification. It is a team effort in there. And as you guys can see, I have someone sitting next to me in the car. And I just want to say this, that there are so many people exchanging notes that nobody ever hears about, because this is a community effort, and we're all in this together to try to relay information to the public, because there is no audio and no video in there. And so I want to say thank you to all of the people that aren't getting thanked, that aren't jumping on lunch lives, but still helping out. There are a lot of people, and we all, whatever the results of this trial are, we all want justice for Abby and Libby. The more I learn about this case, the more just unfathomable and just awful it becomes. And so my thought right now is, in some way, whether it was because Libby fought back, whether it was because they knew Libby, whatever the case may be, I do believe that Libby was certainly more targeted and more the target of the killer than Abby. What did you want to say?
It's just brutal.
Just brutal. Yeah.
Like, this was a brutal murder.
Can you guys hear the person next to me? She said this is just brutal. It was brutal murder. It was, of 2 little girls. 2 little girls. 2 best friends who are out doing something so innocent. And we've heard from so many witnesses who go to this bridge every day, because it's just a place where the community gathers. It is a place where everybody felt safe, allowing their children to go, and for adults to go, families to go. And I think those are the final words we end on today with this Lent Live. This was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. I'm probably just still in shock. And again, another court attendee right now is doing some sketches, and we'll hopefully have those. All right. Anything else? I'm just going to scan the chat here before signing off. Thank you, Lamisa. Yes, I think I put my game face on to explain these type of things, and I did it last night, and I'll do it today, because I know how important it is to relay this information. And as you say, bear witness to this crime, these crimes. Somebody in chat is going to phone the courthouse and report me. For what?
Oh, I think they think that you have your phone, but
I don't have my phone in the court.
You can't.
I can't have it in the court.
They scan all your electronics. You literally
can't. So I leave my phone in my glove box. We park and we go in, and then I come out, and we're going to go back in. So I'm not breaking any court rules. And relaying information is also legal and allowed.
Still the United States.
So, Samantha Elizabeth asking if they think it was two things, a knife or a box cutter, or just one. We're going to get into that later tonight, because it certainly was confusing. I was thinking the entire autopsy personally, and I'll ask you what you think. I was thinking the entire autopsy, oh, there were two separate weapons. That's what I was thinking. And then at the very end, Dr. Kaur said, no, he believes that only one instrument could have caused everything.
It kind of seemed like he said, the prosecutor said, is it possible it was just one weapon? Yes.
Okay.
And then when the defense was like, well, is it possible it was two? You said it could. And he said, yes, in my deposition. I said, yeah, it could have been 2, 3, 4, like, as in, he doesn't really know.
He doesn't know.
Just
so there could be
one. There could be two. Like, that's what but he wasn't saying like they were all these different tools or weapons used. That's how I heard it.
That's how you heard it? Okay. And again, there's going to be a lot of exchanging notes on this one, because this was the most quiet, such an important witness, and the most quiet witness. Like, I was on the edge of my chair doing this with my ears, like almost like reaching to like the row in front of me, doing my best to hear. We all were, so we'll all exchange notes and make sure we get accurate information. Anything else? Yes. Those asking on the results of the essay kits, it's what I said. He made it clear. It doesn't mean that there was an essay, just that there were no visible injuries to report the essay. But again, let's be clear. Libby was found nude. Abby was nude at one point, and in Libby's clothing, when found, that right there, making 2 minors undress, is SA. So let's make sure that we all know that. Let's not mix up the fact that there weren't visible injuries to what SA is.
Penetration,
right,
is basically like, there's just no, to me, that's how.
Well, and not even
like penetration, but obviously, yeah, they were naked. And,
yeah.
One thing they said with the kits is they collect fingernail clippings.
They collect fingernail clippings.
I believe, and this is where I'm gonna have to check because it was hard to hear. It sounded like they said one of the girls, I think Abby, but I couldn't hear, had
I'm getting my notes.
Her fingernails were too short. Like, I heard the term.
Yeah,
nail,
I did.
She was a nail biter, so there wasn't.
It was Abby's.
Yes. So
Abby's nails were too short. They could hardly get any clippings. They were just too short. So they couldn't really get any underneath the fingernails because of just how short they were. Yes. All right, guys.
That's pretty much.
Yeah. We actually better head back in because lunch will be ending soon. We got to go get in line. And then, by the way, both of the girls we learned today, I just want to point this out, are 5'4". We learned that today. And both victims were 5'4", and Richard Allen has been reported to be 5'4". Other reports state that he is 5'5", so take your pick. But I thought that was interesting too, that both victims and the person that's on trial are the same height. I'll just throw that out there. Just thought it was interesting because Richard Allen's height is always a question in this. So there you go. Person on trial is 5'4". The victims are 5'4". All right. Okay, guys. We'll see you. See you tonight. And thank you so much to everyone, to my moderators. I'm jumping on spontaneously. It's going to continue like this throughout the trial. And I never expect my moderators to be here because it's so spontaneous, but when they do show up, it means so much, and it is so kind of them. So thank you. Because this is again just a group effort, and I'll keep reporting what I'm learning. We'll see you. Bye-bye.